manne van die hane, kraai meer nie as net trane. Yeah. Goeienaand, ja, kom by Têkkel set. A very goeienaand. What I don't know what was that. We never had that technical problem where our sound just totally blurred out. I'm not sure, so apologies to the listeners for waiting 2 minutes longer. Lekker. Sit jy wat jy goed van Bali af bring?
Nee man, yesterday is soos 'n ding soos Bali belly hoor ek, so ek het gelukkig dit gebring nie. Maar ja, is lekker om terug te wees. Voet nog my voete, ons gister geland, so nog 'n bietjie moeg, maar ons is hierso, ons is Têkkel. Kyk na laas naweek se game. En het my so moeg gemaak, behalwe die feit dat ek getravel het. Ek dink dit baie mense kan sê emotionally was ons moeg geweest nadat ek wen, né? Dit was crazy geweest, né?
Ja, absoluut mal crazy. En ek dink dit was vir my een van die lekkerste wedstryde om te kyk nadat ek geweet het wat die result was. Ek het die wedstryd 2 keer gekyk in die week, baie meer genotvol. Ek moet vir jou sê, dit is baie meer genotvol om dit te kyk en te weet dat die Springbokke gaan eventually met 1 punt wen. Maar Sondag 9 uur was dit, Alberik, dit was een van die wedstryde waar jy as 'n Springbok supporter regtig waar op die punt van jou stoel was en regtig getraai het. Ja, ek sien nie wat my sê, my signal is 'n bietjie sleg. Ek is seker maar iets van die dinge. Ons
ja, nee.
Ja. Maar ja, nee, kyk, regtig waar, ja, Berrik, dit was naalskraap soos hulle sê.
Ja, crazy. En die manne was al klaar vanaand vir ons join. Heinrich het doen was sê welcome back. Dankie, Hein. Waardeer dit, bro. Ian Adams die ref, manne enige insa oor Ben. Ja, daar's baie om te sê oor Ben, hè. Die feit dat hy weer eens blaas. You know, is the good thing. You know, ek dink Rassie Divik baie diplomaties hy antwoord hy vraag beantwoord word. Feit dat Ben weer die ref is, te sê dat, you know, hulle ken vir Ben en hulle, you know, it's almost the devil you know in die aspekte van hulle ken hom en hulle weet wat vir hom werk en wat nie vir hom werk en hy is baie strikt natuurlik soos Rassie gesê het. So ek dink dis maar I think the history that we have with Ben O'Keefe does help us in the sense that we know what to how to handle the game going forward this coming weekend. Want het kan 'n piesangskool wees in naweek. Ons wil nie arrogant wees en dink ja, die Bokke gaan, you know, met 10 plus 20 plus punte wen nie. Ons het gesien wat laas World Cup gebeur het met die All Blacks in Engeland en Engeland het net gewys dat 'n World Cup knockout game is it's exactly what it is, a knockout game.
Ja, nou ek het geen pyne met Ben O'Keefe as skeieregter vir die Engelse span nie, vir die Engelse wedstryd nie. So ook dink ek daar is baie Franse ouens nou 'n bietjie galbrak. Maar ek dink selfs die Eben Etzebeth geen kaart. Dink ek het Ben O'Keefe baie goed hanteer, hy het baie goed gekommunikeer. En die spelers en selfs nou met die toeskouers met die audio het presies geweet waar beroel.
Ja.
En ek dink oor die algemeen het hy 'n baie goeie wedstryd gehad. Ek dink ons gaan later 'n bietjie praat, want ek 'n bietjie gesels oor die Franse wat nie werklik waar in die speel wil kyk, because it was their game for the taking. It was their game for the taking. It was the Springboks. In some time, I've seen them on the road like this in the first half. In New Zealand, I've never seen them on the ropes and winning a game in quite some time like this. I can't recall seeing a Springbok side being on the ropes, hanging on for dear life. And the French side, I think at home, we will speak about that a little bit in depth. They need to look into the mirror, especially the last few minutes of that game. Yeah, I think they let it slip. They let it slip.
No, 100%.
Laas gesien 'n loskakel skop 'n bal en hy verloor vir jou. Ek het dit nog nooit in 'n quarterfinal and then you get into the territory where you're chasing the game, you 1 point behind, you get a 22-meter dropout, you drop it out directly into touch. die laaste 10 minute dink ek vir die Franse was 'n totale dit was 'n definisie van Frans rugby. Skitterend op tye, maar absoluut vol pleisters en vol plakkers en vol wonde. As ek aan die laaste kyk, mense praat van French flair. You look at how they came out in the last scrum, ran out of the territory and into Boks territory. They just couldn't. They for that last few phases, they actually looked out on their feet. I think we were there as a Springbok side. We were there for the taking, and instead of DuPont now looking at Ben O'Keefe, if he just look at the last 10 minutes. I think you would probably say that if they were more clinical, would have put the Boks away.
Oh yeah, no, I fully agree with you. I think there was moments that might buy a touch and go, and the Boks, the point we made this week that we didn't play well. I don't think it was a brilliant game, but it was a good game of rugby. But I don't think the Boks played well. The French really pushed us to all corners, and they spread us at some points, man. And for us as a Boks, we weren't used to that. We weren't used to a Boks team scrambling the way they did. Fantastic on the scramble. Let's take nothing away from the Boks D when they needed to defend, they did it, and the scrambling was absolutely phenomenal. So that take nothing away from that. However, the French pushed us. They could have landed that knockout blow, but hats off to the Boks in the sense that they know how to play knockout football. They know when it needs to go for the corner, they'll take it. When it needs to have a tap, they took it. And we were all like, Skopale too, and they were like, nope, they're going for the try, and it worked off. Têkkel, Yeah, Têkkel. En so omstandighede wil gedoen was. There was one or two decisions. There was that the moment I think the Boks were 4 points ahead, and Faf we were set up right in front of the post, and Faf, instead of having passing to Andre, who was in the pocket, that would have been an easy 3 points. He went wide with that ball, and it didn't work out. I think he passed against the one French player to milk a penalty, and it didn't work. So there were those decisions that didn't really play off. However, again, the Boks played very well in the sense that they scrambled and they just seemed more desperate. And I think that is what kind of dis die kenmerk van hulle spel. Maar hy net met dit gesê, die naweek het baie opwindende rugby opgedis. Daar was great results in terme van die spanne wat die naweek gespeel het, wat some remarkable games that just the fact that these guys came back. Argentina played well, and looking at the scores right now, Argentina coming from behind to beat the Welsh. All Blacks, obviously, the big win over the Irish, which was a big statement for the weekend on Saturday night, on Friday night at least. And then obviously England and Fiji. Fiji also, going into the last few minutes were quite behind, and then coming back, and then just taking the English right to the end, and almost popping them in the last few minutes. And obviously the game against the French was our highlight. But what a weekend of rugby! Arguably the best weekend of rugby. And many pundits have said over the last week that we probably witnessed the best weekend of rugby.
I'm seeing some messages. Is it my sound? I see some messages of viewers saying they're picking up some sound issues. I'm not sure whether it's from my side or I'm hoping my signal, if it's on my side, that my signal will improve with time. I hope it's not my side, but we're picking up the message. Thanks for just alerting us. Now, Barry, like you said, they were. Okay, I see. Okay, just saw the message. I just in terms of the result of Argentina, I think is the one that we actually got wrong. I think that is the one we actually got wrong, and then the New Zealand. I think we were also saying New Zealand to beat Ireland, and then the big game. England, that we thought was going to beat Fiji a lot easier than what they actually did. I think Ivan Liederman saying that Fiji was going to be up for a upset, but instead it was.
No, 100%. Yeah, 100%. Andy, sorry, I think I think your sound just cut out there. But 100%, I think we all kind of were wishing for Fiji. It would have been fantastic to have the Fijians join South Africa and the Aussies and obviously New Zealand, and having an all Southern Hemisphere final would have been absolutely amazing. But at the end of the day, there's only these 4 teams going to make it, and it's really a shame that the Fijians couldn't make it. However, for me, the surprise of the weekend, besides obviously New Zealand, putting one past the world #1 team at that stage, I think the Aussies, really kind of they're building a bit of form in the sense that they had a bad start to the tournament, losing against England, which we thought they were going to win, and then they came back pretty nicely. As the tournament on, they started building quite nicely, and they started winning the games that mattered. Going to the last games of the pool stages, and obviously winning the Welsh, which I think they were pretty shell shocked after that loss, being the Welsh now. But Argentina's really came back very well and sealed it with a nice beautiful try at the end, just to kind of extend that lead. So that was a for me it was kind of a shock over the weekend in terms of the results. I really thought the Welsh would have brought that home. But I just with that said, and obviously a few comments coming through. Furlough saying, "Ek dink ons thrive under pressure," as Rassie said in the Chasing the Sun documentary. Pressure is a privilege, and it's true. I mean, the Boks know how to handle the pressure when it matters, and especially in a situation like this, for example, they know when to bring it on, and also with that said, they know they've thrived under it in the previous World Cup. And this, would probably mean that the Boks probably have, the tag or the pressure of being favorites at this moment in time, even though the All Blacks are always a dangerous, hoe sê nie buiteperd nie, maar 'n gevaarlike perd as kom by sulke situasies, want ons ken al die All Blacks, hulle weet om die bokke les op te sê in die laaste minute van 'n game. So the Boks will obviously play as favorites in that game. Oh, sorry, can you do the last stages?
No, for sure. And I think Furlough's talking about the pressure, but I think the two things, especially the fixtures, Ireland, New Zealand, and then the fixtures, France, South Africa. There was two things in these two fixtures. There was especially two things that I was looking and I was interested in. One, Ireland, there was a lot of talk about their fitness and fatigue. The reason for that was the stats showed that they actually fielded, I would say, 75% of their players, their first choice players, they were all involved in all the pool games. And if you look at the stats specifically in the Scotland game, you find that Ireland, although the score predicts that or shows that they actually won that game comfortably, they also played very well. Scotland did a lot of the play, and Ireland had to defend a lot, which caused them to do a lot of running meters. That obviously on the clock, it was a big concern. Then for South Africa also, remember, South Africa was not involved in the final week of pool games. They were not involved. They were watching and almost looking for the result to go their way between Scotland and Ireland. So it was almost like 10 working days, which not 10 weekdays between the last pool game and the French game in the quarterfinal. For me, also, it can go your way, or perhaps it can go against you. And we saw in that specific game against France. France started very fast, and that caused the Springboks to almost, I would say, acclimatize to the game only 10-15 minutes in. And if it wasn't for the two tries that we scored, specifically the two tries of Kirtley Arendse and Damien Delendi, which we fielded the ball from kicks or cross kicks, almost against the run of play, we could have been in big trouble in that game. We were really under the pump. The French started very fast. It is not we were I would say, undercooked, but certainly it took a while for us to get into that game. And I think apart from the 2 tries, I think the main reason that we could use our legs and our fresher players in the end, for me, and this is my opinion, the turning point in that whole game was the fact that the French couldn't score a single point during the 8 minutes. Eben Etzebeth was off the field with a yellow card. We did very
100%.
well. Very, very well in that part. I think if we conceded 2 penalties or maybe a try and a conversion, we could have even been in much more trouble in that game.
Oh,
but
yes.
it allowed the subs to come on. And then I think in the last 10 minutes, the Springboks were, I think, with Kwagga Smith and Dion Fourie on the field, we looked fresher. Kwagga was faster to the breakdown, and we managed to keep them at bay. Perhaps now our ticket to go all the way in this competition.
100%. And just with that said, I think there's one player that I must apologize to, and again, he's not my most favorite player, but Jesse Crew this weekend played probably his best game over the hoe lang speel hy nou 20 jaar, but he probably played his best game, and not necessarily. I mean, yeah, the kick through that led to the kick assist, obviously for Cheslin's try, but on defense he was immense. I think his line speed on defense was absolutely amazing, and I mean, he really kind of brought it on that game. You could see he put pressure on that second receiver with a minute he ran up, trying to close that gap down, making sure that they hardly have time to pass the ball. And I must say, he was absolutely phenomenal on the day. Brent Angelo saying, Nancy boys, net 'n vraagie oor die play wat Damien Willemse Marco en toe skrim in ons squad. Dink julle dit was a set play? Definitely. I think that was a planned move, and it worked out. The fact that they got a penalty, it's always a risk, doing that. But the fact they got a penalty of that against a French pack that weren't necessarily bad, scrimmages.
Yeah, no, I think when you say a set play, I don't think it's something you can train. But I think it was certainly a call, or he heard it from someone saying, call the mark. We're going to have the scrum, because normally players feel the ball, especially with a longer kick. They would feel the ball and first scan. He immediately called the mark. I mean, players were meters away from him. Whether it was one of the medics that got the message from the coaching staff, whether it was one of the leader pack calling the mark, I'm not sure. But it's certainly not something that you can rehearse, because there were many balls that they were kicked at him. He caught it, handed it back. I think at that time of the game, it is something that I haven't seen in the modern day. I haven't seen a player call a mark that early with the opposition that far away and call for a scrum. He called it immediately. I can still recall even the commentators were a bit puzzled about what he just did. But again, you can't put anything past the Springbok side. Very well balanced. Again, if they take the scrum there, the scrum collapses, France gets a penalty, people would wonder.
It works the other way.
It worked brilliantly in the end, and again, the Boks setting the trend when it comes to innovation at certain times. And I just want to mention, Alberic, the synergy of the decision making. When a decision is called, you see everybody is already bought into that decision. There were 2 decisions. Jy het genoem van die piskopie. There was a little bit of a meeting. All of a sudden, they called the move. Everybody knew what they needed to do. They knew what was coming, and at the end it was just Eben Etzebeth steamrolling the rest of the French defense to score that try. Yeah, God says teams are always good as they are on the actual day. Recent games prove that past stats and team favorites are not guaranteed wins. I agree fully. I 100% agree with that. And again, Fiji proved it. And also, I think in the Argentinian game, everybody, if you look at the stats, Van Gatland, myself, remember, I also called a Welsh victory, but in the end, those stats doesn't matter at all, Alberic.
No, 100%. And I think that's what made this rugby this weekend so beautiful. I mean, it made it so intens. Elke game het ons kyk ons korte van rugby, maar elke game het iets anders gehad. En alhoewel die enigste game wat ek dink maar wat ons wou gewens het, is in Fiji se geval so gewens hulle kan deurglip. So it would have been a very romantic kind of way of coming through, and winning the English. But it just shows that this weekend has so much intrigue, it's so much true essence of what rugby is all about. And I think the finer details, the different plays and how everything worked out just was brilliant for as an advert for rugby. This weekend couldn't have done any better. And just with that said, we're obviously looking to this coming weekend, and obviously this weekend is the team announcement was made today. With the Boks are facing, and with the team, Rassi's team. Jacques. Let's get it right. Is that Rassi? Jacques. Who's Jacques? Who's Jacques put out today? The team was set out, and obviously it was a team that we thought there would be maybe one or two players that would probably get the opportunity to, like the Kanan Moody's and maybe a Lucanio Am getting opportunity. But this is a part of the tournament where there's no real there's no real time for testing of combinations or making sure that here we can make sure there's a player ready for the final. This is it now. We have 2 games left. Rassi and Jacques has decided this is our team, and they've named an unchanged team. Would there have been a place for anybody in this team if there was a situation that we had to change a play or a possible change? Where do you think that would have lied?
Yeah, I think the one thing that I would have thought would have happened is Faf and Kobus changing around. I think that in my mind would have probably been the selection that I thought was going to be the certain one, is Faf de Klerk starting ahead of Kobus Reinach, and either Kobus Reinach or Grant Williams coming in on the bench. But I think that is the one player which I think has shown to us that he can play at international level, Grant Williams, and he has played slightly less than I thought that he would play. Ambrose saying Grant Williams given a chance in the match 23, and 100% correct. I think Grant Williams would have certainly been on the bench had Rassi, and I do believe it was a discussion to play the 6-2 split with Pollard and Grant Williams being the 2 backline players. I think Grant would then have come in. But still a very interesting move to have Faf de Klerk on the bench. Did it work on Saturday? I don't think so. I think Kobus Reinach had a very average game. I honestly expected a lot more from Kobus Reinach starting. I think the best combination for Kobus and Faf in tandem would be Faf at number 9 starting and Kobus coming off the bench. It just looks a little 100%. Bit. Even Faf, he sped up the game a little bit more. He had that brain freeze when he passed the ball straight into a French player, hoping for a penalty. And then he almost, with 3 minutes to go, he almost wanted to play for time in the French territory where he wanted to put up the forwards. Again, I think it was a call asking him to kick the ball and kick the ball long, and he did that. But, I think Faf, he rushed a few things coming on. His work rate second to none. But I think that is the one position, Alberic, where I think this team can still improve on. I'm glad that Mario gets another chance. He looked very surprised when he got subbed 4 minutes into the second half.
Yeah, no, and just your point on Kobus, I think there were moments where Anton de Pont really kind of showed Kobus up in many ways. Anton de Pont, yes, if you look at a guy that comes back from an injury like that, and the man is not world class. He just knew when to pass, when not to pass. And you as a spectator, you're watching the game and you're thinking, oh, he's going to go that way, but then he doubles up and he goes the other way. And he's just such a world-class player that, second to none in his position. And he's deservedly the best scrum half in the world. And that was shown up, I think, in a lot of ways with Kobus. I think he maybe was a bit overzealous in trying to defend Anton. And a lot of times he was shown up and was caught on the wrong side or caught missing a tackle on Anton, and Anton will get the pass away. So I think that played a lot in that favor. And I agree with you. Faf has the ability, even though he does make the bad choices, like we said, when to pass, when to kick, and when in the previous years when he kicked a lot, it was also an issue for us. But he's good on defense. I think he would have probably watched Anton a bit more than what Kobus did, and I think that would have probably been better to start him off, and then bring on a fresh legs of Kobus in the second half. But obviously, I think the brains trust had that planned in that way. With that said, with Andre Pollard, I think one point I made early in the week was that his defense was dismal, I would almost say. He missed, I think, 3 or 4 very crucial tackles. There was I think it was Ramos that was it Ramos or Jalibert that was going to do a up and under the dummy to kick, and then he jumped up and charged down, and he was overzealous, I think, in a lot of ways, and that showed up. I mean, we know how good he can kick, but his defense wasn't that great, and I think we know him for that. For the last couple of years, his defense wasn't that great. But we were just as surprised when Mane came off just so early in the game. But we needed a kicker. Let's be honest. I think with we know that that 3 points that Andre put up from the 50-meter mark, you were almost guaranteed that was going to be that kick was going to go over, and it just brings that kind of calmer feeling that you need when you need 3 points, knowing that Andre Pollard is gonna slot that over. But I think even a Grant Williams, and like Ambrose just made up the point of Grant Williams, a play like that coming up in the second half, after Faf has done his thing, and making keeping Antoine Dupont honest about his position, because we know how nippy Grant could have been from the bench, and I think this is probably we could have probably chanced him in this game, for example, and see going into that final, possibly if he would be that play that second fiddle role to Faf.
Yeah, no, I think it's time now perhaps for consistency, but it should be horses for courses, and the team that they've selected, obviously, if we do dominate ball possession, which we didn't do against the French, I think even in territory, I think we were slightly behind. But against the English, I believe if we do dominate ball possession, certainly this team can do it. But you need to budget for the odd, let's say, the speed bump within the game, and even if you look at the chances that Willie is going to come on is a certainty, and the chances that you're going to play him at 15 is then a certainty. But then you need to think: do you take David Willemse off? Which again, on Saturday, did we improve the side with Willie? He had, I believe that the bench players should be the likes of Ergier, Quagga, Dion Fourie. That if you want to shift the gear up, you need to pick up the tempo. And if you look at Willie Damien again, if you want to play Willie, even in your match 23, especially now with Pollard covered at fly off, Willie's only going to come on at number 15. Does he offer you that much from a attacking perspective, especially now? But again, he's an experienced player, but I don't think he's got that pace to do the line breaks or to have the try assist that he had in the past. It just looks a bit sluggish. But in general, a very consistent selection, something that we haven't seen at the World Cup from the Springbok side. And I'm really hoping that in terms of ball possession, that we do dominate those specific territories of the play, ball possession, and especially playing in the right areas. If we do want to get our maul going, that we get it going from the right areas, because we haven't been we haven't been that dominant against the bigger sides in the last few games. I think against Scotland we were good, but we dropped off against Ireland. I don't think against France we controlled the game as good as we should.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think the that onus is on our forwards to kind of just show that impetus. At there were moments. I think in the second half we kind of we edged them a bit. I think when they needed to count, they actually started gaining a bit of momentum. That's what the Boks needed at that specific moment in the game. And I think that's primarily why they brought up Andre Pollard and Faf. That kind of tried and tested combination, knowing that they played under Rassie with the last couple, especially in the first year of Rassie's stint. They were the incumbents and they know the kicking game pretty well. And I mean, hats off to Rassie them for bringing up those. I think their selection on who they brought up were very good in the sense that it kind of controlled the game. It brought impetus like the Kwaggas and the Deon Fouries. It's just debatable on Willie Leroux. He came and knocked the ball on once or twice, if I'm not mistaken. And you just think, in this kind of stage, having that kind of silly mistake doesn't really. You're playing quarterfinal rugby, and it counts a lot. That those moments. Melvin Engelbrecht would say, "Boys, what about Faf's balls to the death? Your thoughts?" I mean, that was absolutely amazing. I think the fact that he chose to go that forward. I can't remember his name. I think it's a prop. That he was on the move, and Faf saw the opportunity. I saw a slow motion earlier today, and he went for it and he ripped the ball. That was a great move, and that's what I think championship quality players bring through in moments like that. We needed that. I mean, these guys were camping on the halfway line, inside our half, then out, back in their half, and a simple penalty would have blown. Even if that ball had to collapse at some point, there would have probably been a penalty right in front of the post. But what a move from Faf at that moment.
Yeah, I know, but I think the worrying thing for me with Faf is one of the culprits. Kwagga being one when he comes on. We for some other reason, and you could see in Rassie's interview, if he could say it very directly, he would have said it. In terms of Ben O'Keefe refereeing the French game and now refereeing the English game in the semi-finals, we as a defensive outfit, we somehow, and I don't know whether it is because we defend in a certain way, we get pinned on the floor, lying on the wrong side. Kitshoff was in big trouble twice or thrice. He got away with it. Faf came on. He fell on the wrong side. He was blown for a penalty. Kwagga did it twice. He goes over the ball, and I don't know whether it is because they want to get over the ball and almost pull their body backwards to have that holding or get a grip on the ball for getting the penalty. But Ben O'Keefe was very alert to that. And I think in Rassie's interview, where he specifically referred to Ben O'Keefe now knows what we do right and what we do wrong, I think he alluded to the fact that O'Keefe is very strict on players being off their feet and slowing down the ball for the opposition at the breakdown. And we've been, especially when we're doing scramble defense, Peter Step de Toey and Kwagga Smith being culprits number one, Bongi to a lesser extent, and especially Faf. He's very eager to be there, and then he falls over. We get pinned on the wrong side, and I think we were penalized twice in kicking range. The one was a little bit too long, and I think they opted for a line. The other ones were when we actually, I would say, let them off the hook in their own territory. But that is something that we need to work on, because the English, if there's one thing, they're out of form. They're perhaps not the favorites going into the semi-final. But if there's one thing about the English in general, they prepare very well for the opposition. They study the opposition. They use the technology at their disposal. And they would have watched this French game. They would have watched the Irish game against the Boks, the Scottish game. And I think also even gone as far back to have watched the All Blacks game at Twickenham to prepare for this game. And I think it's one area we need to keep those penalty mistakes to a bare minimum, because we want England under pressure from the outset and not give them chance to get out of territory through silly mistakes on our side.
And with that said, I mean, we look at the English team. They've chosen. I think Rassie made a comment yesterday that he actually laid out the English team, and I was buying to say what Rassie mind games speel in the media and so on. But I think he got 12 or 13 out of the 15 he got correct in terms of naming the English squad already. But they've gone with players that they've come along for a while. These guys didn't just start yesterday. And there's one or two players that are I think 22, which are pretty young, and they new to the scene, fairly new to the scene. But in general, they've chosen a very solid kind of looking team. Obviously, Farrell being a player that we all know about. And you bringing on Courtney Laws. Those guys were Courtney Laws, obviously captain England in the autumn series, or the summer series early this year. So they've got a very solid looking team. And whether you're looking at them on paper, whether they didn't gel just yet, there is this kind of feel going that the English have, throughout this tournament, they've won when it mattered. They didn't win pretty. They took games to the final minute. But this is definitely a team that we don't want to underestimate. I mean, Johnny May and Elliot Daly are players that can definitely do damage on the day. And then obviously Freddie Stewart coming in, and as we heard earlier today in one of the reports, that Freddie Stewart is obviously one of the bigger players in the team. And that's obviously probably to counter the Boks kicking game, because we saw it happen against the French. Those two kicks that Mane put up resulted in tries for us. So that does have an impact on how we play. They've countered it with their choices. So should we take this team lightly, or are they bubbling under?
I think this team perhaps against all odds getting this far, but we would have picked them to beat Fiji in that quarterfinal. It wasn't as easy as we expected, but I'm telling you, this team will prepare very well. They would have done their homework on the Springboks. I must say, moving, you would know Courtney Law's start of his career as a lock. I must say, in the last few years, moving him to a number 6 flanker, really a revelation. He's playing very good rugby. Controversially involved in their turnover at the end against Fiji, but in general, physically, he really stood up to a very physical Fijian side. He did the hard yards. But for me, one of the findings of the World Cup is the number 8 for England, Ben Earl. I think, it's not a name that I'm well acquainted with. I know that he's played a few tests for the English side. But I think really a guy that each and every time when the game does get loose, or Alex Mitchell or Owen Farrell goes through the half gap and finds him, he normally gains meters. He gets over the advantage line. He's very stocky and very difficult to bring down. But rightfully so, Freddie Stewart in the place of Marcus Smith, who started against Fiji. Smith took a few punches. He was better against Fiji. Really, and I don't think, God's saying, I don't think he would have survived the onslaught, especially the aerial accuracy. Remember, there were one or two of the kicks of Fiji that were slightly too far. Then the odd one was right on the tiki. And when he was waiting for that ball, he got totally smashed. I thought to myself, that Marcus Smith, and each and every time he got up, bleeding, looking really battered. And in that sense, I thought to myself, sitting there, if he plays against the Springbok, Mane gets it right. Peter Step the Toy goes up, beats him in the air, and tips it for either Kurtley Arendse or Cheslin. We will be in for business. But also, he has this appetite of running back. He ran it back twice against Fiji. Got absolutely smacked. And I was looking forward to see him against the Springboks. I think it's an injury-enforced selection, but Freddie Stewart will certainly be a more safer collection, let's say selection, especially for the Springboks area game. This team, Alberi, you can't write them off. Write them off.
100%.
Peril.
No, 100%. And George Ford again, Ford coming off the bench. I mean, the first few games when Owen Farrell wasn't available, George Ford played good rugby. He was holding the ship together. He was doing pretty well in controlling the backline, especially in the game against the Argies. I think they were accumulated points quite nicely. So him coming up in the second half and possibly Andre Pollard coming up. Andre would say Duncan as a combat defender, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how Andre will face that that challenge of taking on George Ford. But a team that, again, we don't want to take for granted. We've seen what English, and they'll probably, when it comes to muscle memory or some kind of tapping into what they remembered from the 2019 World Cup, this is the semi-final of anything can go. Anything can go. We can't even look towards the final at all now at this moment. We cannot even think about facing the All Blacks events because we have to get past this hurdle. It is England after all. It's not, they haven't had the best, few years, in terms of the results, but they are still England after all, and I think we should not look past that and not take it for granted that this is this used to be a world-class team at some point. They were world champions at one point, so there is some kind of memory in that, and there's something that we need to just be very wary of, not necessarily us as supporters, but our players, and I think they'll be up for the challenge. But a good team nonetheless, and something really to us lekker ons lippe af vir 'n naweek weer van goeie rugby. And I think this if you look at towards the semis coming up this weekend, as it stands, you have New Zealand, Argentina, which they play tomorrow night, and then obviously the Boks and England play on Saturday night. It's going to be two massive games, two games that I think we all, was lekker se lippe af vir baie goeie game. I think, even looking towards the New Zealand Argie game, New Zealand won't necessarily take the Argies lightly. They've lost against the Argies, I think, twice in the previous year. Besides this year, they've lost against the Argies at home, and I think the Argies are going to be ready for them.
Yeah, I look at these two fixtures and I cannot see a different final than the All Black South Africa final. I think especially the New Zealand Argentina game. Yeah, you mentioned Argentines can be a bogey side, but I think one step too far for them. Alberic, they were very good against Wales, but I think the New Zealand will beat them, and I think New Zealand this time around might beat them very comfortably. I'm looking at perhaps a 12 to 15 point difference. The one between South Africa and England, I think we have a good enough side to beat the English. They are slightly down confidence. I think the only thing that might get them going here is motivation, for the fact that they've lost twice. The last time they played in a World Cup, it wasn't very pretty. They played the South Africans in a final in 2019, and we all knew what happened there. And then last year, 2022, we managed to beat them again. I think that scored 27 points to 13. So they would want to rectify that. I think with the team selected, we now know what Rassie has in mind, and especially the team that we've selected. I believe that we will try to control the game a little bit better than we did against France. And looking at those fixtures, I'm going to call a New Zealand South Africa final for the Rugby World Cup 2023, with England and Argentina having to play up for
like
third
that.
And
like that. Aini, what are your thoughts going now to? I mean, and again, everybody that's tuning in, let us know your predictions. We've Aini's put it out there. Aini, jy het maar 'n paar predictions gehad last week. Wat is so goed gegaan het, and we'll look at Super Bro in a second. But guys, let us know your thoughts. Who are you looking forward to this coming weekend? Oor Engelbreg wat sê Courtney Lodge is seker sy beste game ooit vir Engeland gespeel, maar hulle swakste skakel is Owen Farrell. Met George Ford staan hulle baie beter kans, maar ons bokkies gaan wen. Boks NZ final, my prediction. I think a lot of people is already looking towards that game and saying that that's going to be the finals. That's what we're looking at. The Boks All Blacks, being that. But this tournament can definitely throw one against you. So ek is maar net weer ek is maar net ons kan nie, as great a strategist as Rassie is, you always wary of just being on the wrong side. And
can I tell you, Derek, where the English perhaps have I think Farrell Ford selection, like Aubrey is saying, tit for tat. But I think looking at specifically, and this is specifically watching the Ireland New Zealand game, where for some other reason only the Irish would be able to explain why they use Manu Bandi Aki as a decoy runner within that game. They played him as a decoy. He pulled in a lot of players, but it was a clear plan to use him as a decoy and then get Keith Earls and Lowe and those outside backs, get them running. But for the 3 or 4 times that Bandi Aki really straightened the line, he got over the advantage line, and one time where he scored the try, perhaps shaky defense by New Zealand, but he really posed a threat. Looking at the English side, they have a similar player to Bandi Aki in the number 12 jumper, Manu Tuilangi. A guy that will run the same lines. He will run at channel where Mani, especially where Mani is defending, not necessarily where Damon is standing, but he will cut back and run where Mani is defending, especially that area where Dwayne and Peter Step the Toy needs to fill, and he will come at that channel very hard. I think Owen Farrell puts him away very well, and I think with Manu there, they would depend on him from set pieces, lineouts and scrums to get them over the advantage line and allow the Courtney Laws and the Ben Earls to get in behind and very strong. If the Springboks can keep him at bay, defend strongly, make sure that they cut off the supply line. If he does go through a half gap, that he doesn't get the offload in, we can just cut the supply. I don't think the English outside back has anything on us. I don't think that their wingers will be able to match us. I don't think that Freddie Stewart coming into the line as pose a big of a threat. But Manu Tuilagi will put them over the advantage line. The one weakness that Manu has is his defense. Strangely enough, for a guy as strong, as big, Damien Delendi will test him. That is one thing. Damien Delendi will come at him and come at him hard. And if we 100%. Don't play possession, Manu Tuilagi tends to fall off defenders. He's not a defender that wants to square up against a big defender. He almost wants to hit you from the side. And that is dangerous playing against DDA. The Delendi will run at him and run at him hard. So I think that is going to be, for me, that is perhaps going to be the tussle of the match. Then Delendi facing up against Manu Tuilagi, trying to get both teams on the front foot and trying to ensure that if they do carry, that they get in behind the opposition. Manu Tuilagi started a game against Fiji very well. But when Fiji took the physical game to his channel, he almost disappeared. And that is the area where I think Damien Delendi specifically and Dwayne, especially in the initial stages, need to run at that channel and hopefully 100%. Then force Farrell to make the tackles instead of Tuilagi, which will allow our outside backs, the Manis, the Damien Willemse, the Colbys, the Curtis Aronses, to have space on the outside.
100%, and I think that will kind of set it up very nicely for the Boks, in terms of just making sure that they can win those battles within battles. I think the one player that stood out for me this weekend, besides and out in the Boks setup, besides the the Cheslins and the Etzebeth, was a guy like Ox in Che. Ox came out and really brought it to not only in the scrum but also as in forward play, general forward play. He was phenomenal. I think he really had a great game coming off the bench, and I think it's going to bode well for us going into that. I think they went with Joe Marler as a start. Normally Joe Marler comes off the bench, but they chose to start him this time, and I think maybe just for the energy that he brings to that position. But just in our forwards, I think we've got a very solid combination. I don't foresee any troubles when it comes to scrum time. I don't foresee any issues for us to make sure that we're dominating. The only area, like you mentioned earlier, is just the lineouts, because they've got a very good, even Courtney Laws that's playing flank. He was a lock before, so they were very good jumpers, and I think that's the only area that I think that we would have to kind of really do some contesting. And I think this weekend past events, there was the French definitely put us the sort of in the lineouts. So there's definitely those areas that we need to just make sure that we can tighten on and make sure that we do have the right answer for England. But nonetheless, ek wil die manne onderskat nie eintlik. Ek dink dis die undertone van my boodskap vanaand. Ek wil die manne onderskat nie.
Ek dink Rassie onderskat hulle nie. Ek dink nie die Boks squad onderskat hulle nie. Ek dink ons media en perhaps ons fans dink dat die wedstryd gaan makliker wees as wat dit werklik is. Ek sien 'n opwaartse kurwe en dit is veral met die goeie spel en wedstrydbestuur van die coaching staf van die Bokke, dat van ons, kom ons sê die manne wat 'n bietjie ouer in been is, die Dwayne Vermeulens, die Willie Leroux, dat hulle nog op hierdie stadium van die kompetisie nog steeds daardie kilos kan insit, maar ek is met jou. Ek dink glad nie dat die Springbokke gaan op hulle lauwere is nie. Ons moet teen Engeland baie skerp wees. Jy het een kans in 'n semifinaal en jy wil nie terugkyk en sê wat as ons dit gedoen het. Ek dink die Bokke moet baie vinnig begin, maar ingeluister na Rassie se perskonferensie het hy die grootste respek vir wat Engeland kan doen. Ek dink sommige tye is daar comments wat tong in die kies is, maar ek dink nie Rassie met sy coaching staf sal Engeland onderskat nie. Dit is 'n semifinaal. As ons kon kies, sou ons miskien tussen die twee vir Argentinië wou speel, alhoewel Engeland out of form is. Engeland is Engeland, en ek dink ons het 'n baie ryk geskiedenis teen mekaar. Die Bokke natuurlik voor wanneer dit kom by head-to-heads, maar Engeland in 'n playoff game het net 'n manier om wanneer dit nodig is, die spel te lig.
And with that said, what are your predictions for this coming weekend?
Well, I got the Wales Argentina one definitely wrong. A lot of people I didn't pick the Irish to down against New Zealand. We were at least saying that would happen. For the semi-finals, I think New Zealand to beat Argentina by between 12 to 15 points. I think it might even be more comfortable than that. I think the Aussies really ran riot in the latter parts of the game with Nicholas Sunset coming off the bench and taking the games to the Welsh. New Zealand to beat them with 12 to 15 points. And I think the Boks to hang in against the English and in the latter part of the game will have enough with our bench to beat them with 8 points.
We are actually, I agree with you 100%. I think on the English game, I think we at least good for 8 points on that. And then looking at the New Zealand Aussies game, I think the All Blacks will at least put 15 points past them. I think they'll easily put 15 points past them and not have to worry about. We'll see them off. The All Blacks will see them off pretty nicely, and we won't have to worry about who's going to be in the final, because we'll definitely get the All Blacks in the final. I think we all agree on that. Ambrose would say New Zealand by 23. En dan sê ook die Bokke met 16 punte. Yep, that's going to be interesting game. I think this is, if you look at the scores that we're pushing out there, ons sal die scores opgesit het vir die kwartfinale, want that was tight games, and we knew going, it was France, South Africa, Ireland, All Blacks. We knew not going to be massive, and those games were deservedly supposed to be this coming weekend. We look forward to a weekend of, we don't know where it's going to go. We're actually more sure of where the finals are going to be held, or we're going to be contesting the final instead of this round where instead of the previous round where we didn't know. I mean, last week it was touch and go. So it's going to be tough. Guys, let us know your thoughts. Who do you guys think will come through? Ambrose has already picked the Boks, and also the All Blacks, which means it will be all Black final. Very interesting. I think it's going to be really, really intense, and just some great rugby that's going to be seen this coming weekend. But that said, Aini, obviously we have to look at Super Brew. Let's have a look at Super Brew because ons moet daaroor praat, Aini. Ons moet daaroor praat gou voor ons afsluit. Ons moet daaroor praat. So
te disappointed die week. Jy weet ek so gelike het om die Wales-Argentinië game reg te kry, maar again, Melly wat sitting tight at the top and then Zak.
Yeah, he's flying high at the moment.
Furlough ook in die derde plek. Die leaders wat nou al hardloop by 51 punte. En ons is maar kom sy, hy het verby geskuif.
Sure, met 14 plekke, hy nie dit wil gedoen wees, né? Just the day. What were you doing, man? Where were you? Wag, daar sê ek, okay, nou moet te ver af. Nou moet te ver af.
Okay, now we close.
Yeah, we close. It's touch and go.
I think somewhere you scored them out. You called the Argentines to beat the Wales.
Yep, I did. I actually did, yeah. I
think that is the difference, but well done. And you went with New Zealand. You said I'm bluffing when I called the New Zealand victory, and you also went with New Zealand. So well done. But looking down, I think still the same there at the bottom. The guys are really struggling down there. Apart from us giving away prizes for, I think it's going to be the top 2, perhaps the top 3. We must also try and find something for someone that finished really lucky Luke, who's going to finish last. But it's still a tussle between DI, Lucky Luke, GS12, VP, Bluebird, also 38.33.
It's Ambrose, ne?
Real struggle at the bottom, but still things to call. And who knows, if you call the Argentine to upset New Zealand, you might be the only one in the conference to call that, and it might take you all the way to the top. Who knows? Will you take that risk?
It's gonna be an interesting weekend lining up. Obviously, the guys are already, close to the end there already. The top guys, and it's gonna be hard to chase them down. But you never know. Like a one wildcard game could get you 14 places up.
But I think before we say good night, we are almost there on the hour. Let's just have a sneak peek at our beloved Proteas. They will find a way to stuff something up. It's an absolute talent that this team has. They have an absolute astonishing talent to find a way to spoil your hopes. They started well at Sri Lanka. And I still recall the two of us chatting and said, this is a good start. Surely they're making the semi-finals. They beat Netherlands. They beat Bangladesh. They'll surely beat Afghanistan. They absolutely found a way to lose against the Netherlands. I think when it comes to having a talent to spoil your hopes, the Proteas will rank very high on any listing sport. Close to a lot of football teams, this side is, it goes beyond my comprehension. They lose against Netherlands by 38 runs. It's actually they lost with comfort. We're ending the show off on a bit of a low, but this is our Proteas side.
You couldn't have said it better, man. You see, man, hulle weet, ons is op 'n high. You see, you wen ons is pocket gewen. Ek kom die Proteas en sê die Proteas wag hou hom my bier vas, man. En dan wys ons hoe anders.
Ek persoonlik weet hoe ek oor die Proteas team voel.
Hey man.
Was tye wat ek gesê het, ek speel hulle in my tuin, dan gaan ek hierdie gordyn oopmaak om te kyk. Ek het regtig waar die game teen die Netherlands sit te kyk. En let's hope they turn it around. Next game against England.
Well, funny. I mean,
if we go with the North, they'll beat England. They lose against Bangladesh. They lose against Pakistan. They beat New Zealand. They will beat New Zealand and India. Afghanistan will knock them out of the tournament. That's just all us.
We hope, guys. We hope. We live in hope. The chances are not there. Look. The interesting thing is this weekend coming, it will be the Boks will take on England in the semi-final, and they'll be taking England on in the Cricket World Cup. So it's going to be very interesting to see as ons dit kan wen, because obviously England not doing so well. I think they lost against Afghanistan in last week. So they'll be up for this challenge, again against the Proteas. But yeah, you can if Australia win and Sri Lanka win, and then gaan vang jy maar aan
and saying this on the show, if there's any cricket fanatics, I'm still putting the South Africans to perhaps make the playoffs, the semi-finals. Remember, these teams, they all play each other. So it's like a lekker round robin. Where they play all the teams. I'm still thinking, and this is solely based that they managed to beat Australia and Sri Lanka handsomely. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they might still be able to lose to either New Zealand, India, or England, or maybe two of those matches, and still make it through to the semi-finals. I'll be the first one to apologize on Têkkel Talk Show and publicly if the Proteas make the final or if they go on to win this competition.
I think a lot of people will be welcoming that. I think that's a small price to pay to see the Proteas finally making it through in a World Cup. I mean, yes, with all the talent. And they're favorites. Well, not favorites necessarily. They've been bubbling. We spoke about it last week. They're bubbling under. However, they've got the talent. They've got the players.
They have the team. The balance is right, but I think the temperament. I think the temperament now and then, it's just the BMT sometimes.
Yeah.
Op die groot verhoog, ligte aan, gordyne oop, action, and then they finish.
Yeah, and
they knew the word, they rehearsed it, everything, and they did it everything right. Skool kon sê, mooi, hulle is reg. Die mense daar sit, wie betaal en kyk.
Look, I think, Rashid last week to die Franse game toe, hulle nou voorberei vir dit toe speel hy uit 'n loudspeaker gehad langs die veld wat gesimulate om die crowd te die sounds dat die bokke gewoond raak. Miskien het die Proteas so ou nodig net om te sê, right guys, let's simulate the fact that you are 3 wickets down in the first 10 overs of the match. What are you going to do? You know what I'm saying? So you need that kind of probably, I don't know if it's something, I don't know, we've had great coaches before, we had a Gary Kirsten, but it's just somehow the Proteas just find a way. It would have been so, going into this England clash, it would have been a case of the English being aware they're up against it, and they both think, we can chance our arm here. The Proteas are, looking like they're blowing hot and cold, literally hot and cold, So yeah, let's hope they can. I mean, we're still backing the Proteas. We still, Proteas by heart, and even though my enige gordyne is toe as hulle in sy tuin speel, ons is nog steeds Proteas fans, maar ons hoop en bid.
Yeah, no, it's really frustrating sometimes to to be disappointed, but let's hope. I think they, the last time they were such a balanced side. Aiden Markham, Koen de Kok, hitting runs, Temba, have a very good attack. Where I think, even in the conditions where they are playing now, which they sometimes fail to play, they got good scores. So, we're just hoping for some consistency. But having said that, a good opportunity again against England to show their worth. But it would have been so much more confident having gone into that fixture unbeaten, and now they go into that fixture as a team that lost against the 13th or 14th seeded side, on the rankings. Eric, semi-final pick. I think we had our predictions. We are calling a Springbok versus New Zealand final. For those who beg to differ, please do that on the Super Brew log. That will probably be the difference between winning or losing. But LB, another I would say stellar weekend of rugby. We were entertained, especially the Irish game against New Zealand, and then topping it off with the French game against South Africa. The adrenaline was pumping. I struggled to fall asleep, very tired on the Monday. Let's hope for 2 semi-finals to duplicate that and give us rugby out of the top draw. Till then, I am calling it a Springbok New Zealand final. Alberic, you?
I'm the same. I'm not gonna. That's the only way I see it's gonna happen. There'll always be the what ifs, and that will probably crop up. But I think it's clear as day those two teams are the best out of the four at the moment, and we'll definitely face the All Blacks in the final, which I think will be a cracker, an absolute cracker. So yeah, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe on our channel. Sorry, Annie. Like and subscribe on YouTube, Facebook, and even Twitter as well. Would really like you guys to be in contact with us. We always want to be engaging with you and finding out what are your thoughts. So please subscribe, and we'll regularly update you on any news and any comments that we have from our side as the Têkkel Talk Show.
Building up to the final next week. After the semi-final, as we look back, we would know who the finalists are. Next week, we have a special guest already lined up. A special guest who's going to talk to us and give us some insight in terms of what I'm not going to say whether it's going to be a he or she. I'm going to give it away. But what that person would think would be the outcome of the final, knowing who the two finalists will be.
Yep.
Victor Kiakis, up your King Charles. I denk my hy skryf vir die Engelsmanne om weer te kom. Victor.
Hy moet 'n All Black wees. Victor's 'n All Black seker. Victor moet 'n All Black wees seker.
Moet wees. Maar ja, Erik, so 'n uur verby gevlieg.
Ja.
Maar volgende week, hierdie tyd sluit ons hierdie reeks af en ons gaan dan in na die Rugby World Cup final toe. Kom ons hoop en kom ons vertrou dat die Springbokke in die finaal gaan speel komende weekend. Maar vir nou is dit eers die Engelse wat wag en ons sê dat die Bokke die Engelse sterktes in die bene gaan huis toe stuur. Tot volgende week. Kom ons maak weer so op Têkkel Chat, YouTube, Facebook en Twitter. Gesels saam met ons, stuur uit pictures deur. Ons wil meer van julle hoor op hierdie Têkkel show. Tot volgende week dan. Wees veilig. Cheerio. Ons gesels weer.